And we are back. Welcome back to another episode of Wilson Way Sports Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Back with another late night episode with my boy, chilling with Dylan. Back to discuss Game 5 reaction of the NBA Finals. Dylan, what's going on?
Brother Phil, Wilson Way Sports. I'm honored to be on this journey, and I'm honored to be here. Appreciate it. Looking forward to talking about that crazy Game 5. It's been a great series of basketball so far, and it's been even better to be able to cover it with you and the other guys, and just really be on our consistency with this.
Yes, sir. Let's keep it going. And with that said, the Thunder are up 3-2 in the NBA Finals. We are one away from having our prediction fully correct. We predict the Thunder in 6 at the beginning of the series, and again, one win away from that being true. The Thunder won 120 to 109, and it was actually closer than you think for that end result, despite all the craziness that happened in the game. Main highlights I want to put in the game to start out: J-Dub masterclass, 40 points. His I believe is a career high. I think he's ever had 40 before. Big time performance by him. You know, that's type of performance I think of when I say like the Thunder having an A+ game.
Yeah.
It's those two dudes, SGA and J-Dub, leading the way offensively and defensively. So I think with stuff like that, it really makes it hard for the Pacers to compete. And then also when you think about on the Pacers side, Tyrese Halliburton having a goose egg performance as far as field goals made. You know, I cut him a little bit of slack with having that with a strained left hamstring, I believe, but still, like that's such a scenario where I'm like, yo, if you're out in the court, like you got to find a way to be more effective.
Yeah.
But at the same time, coach, where you at, my boy McConnell? I know people underestimate because it's undersized white dude playing point guard. In the day, the brother can hoop. You know what I'm saying? So like I just thought that was a mistake by Carlisle not trusting
like Billy Hoy out there, man. He can ball.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? The dudes, the Philly fans know. I was watching a clip from Miles Johnson. We're talking to MJ. Shout out to him, and he was talking about how Philly misses him, man, and he's a dog competitor. I'm like thinking in that scenario when you don't have your number one point guard in the game balling, really doing anything for you, the backups up and doing well. What do you think about that?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's bail that can be shot towards Tyrese because anytime as a guard you have a calf or a hamstring injury, that just as a player, an athlete, of course that's going to impact you, but as a guard, that's going to be so impactful because your momentum, your speed, your ability to accelerate, your ability to change the pace, all these things now are going to be impacted. And if it was such a glaring injury, then I would have just had him rest the rest of the game. There's no point in having you, potentially injure yourself even worse, cause yourself more pain, cause yourself more difficulties. Because if the Pacers want to win, they need Tyrese Halliburton. Make no mistake, they're not winning without him. They have to win with him, and that's also a tough moment as a coach where do I go with the guy who has been the starter and who is, carried us here? Or do I go with the hot hand? And in that moment, you have to go with the hot hand. TJ McConnell had 18 off the bench in 22 minutes. You need to have him out there more. He's a dog. He's ready for the moment. He wants the moment. This is a guy who has been playing incredible all postseason, and he's just a backup. But that's what role players that make a difference, that do get remembered. It's because they step up in those big moments. Think about how many times that Derek Fisher stepped up for your Lakers. You know what I'm saying? That type of impact is what TJ McConnell is having for the Pacers. But they have to utilize that more, and especially in the event that Halliburton has anything injury-wise that is of a concern, that's when it's next man up. And when that next man has been balling, you need to keep him going. You need to keep him in that spot where he can contribute at his best. And I think overall, it's not an indictment on Carlisle as a coach. No one gets things perfect. And he's been putting on a clinic all playoffs. Forget just this finals, but all playoffs. But every now and then, you make a mistake. You just have to say, okay, how do we go back to the drawing board and how do we fix what we do moving forward? And looking at Halliburton, moving forth with his injury, they have to play it so ear by ear, day to day. If I'm Coach Carlisle at practice, I'm letting TJ get as much runs with the ones as possible.
Absolutely.
Be on the safe side, just to be on the safe side.
I think you have to, and that's a great point, kind of like to tease Game 6 a little bit. There has to be an adjustment in game plan. We already know reportedly he's going to be a game time decision, so we don't know how that's going to go. But like you said, I think you got to trust McConnell either way, whether you start McConnell or you have your rotation where McConnell plays more minutes. I think that's the correct way to go. But also when it comes to just overall survival, you know what I'm saying? We always know closeout games are the biggest thing. But when I think about how it's going to be an adjustment, we know how in Game 5, I think the biggest mistake was for the Pacers. They got to be in their own game. They gave up. The Thunder made more threes, more fast break points, and assists. That's Pacer basketball. Yep. And to get beat that way, that's going to be the biggest adjustment I think going into Game 6 is like you have to find a way to play your style of play. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to lose, go out swinging, going out playing your style of basketball. Because you can't win. They can't win any other way. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Regardless if Tyrese is healthy or not, I think you got to find a way to play your game. And I think about mostly from there, who's going to step up. I mean, we talked about it. We were bragging about a guy, Mathurin. You know what I'm saying? Had that 27 point off the bench. Hasn't really done a whole lot since, unfortunately. I mean, when we had Game 5, he had 2 for 11, 22 minutes played, 7 points. Come on, man.
It's not gonna cut it. No. We were heavy on the Benedict Mathurin stock.
He's still a baller though. I'm not.
And to be fair, I still think he can turn it around. I think I wouldn't be giving him all this praise if I didn't believe in him as a player. But this is the time where you want people to look at your name when it's mentioned amongst legends that were put up 25 in their first 25 plus in their first in an NBA Finals game.
Absolutely.
The age of the age of 25 or some type of
22 or younger. Kobe, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want your name to be there and people to be like to say it as if like that was that guy and not be like one of these things is not like the other. Like that one I hate to use him as an example because I did like him a lot when he was on the Sixers, but that one stat graphic that had Thaddeus Young when he was on the Pacers, but it was like listed with like Will Kareem.
Oh yeah, the ESPN stat.
Yeah, and then you get Thaddeus Young. I remember Thaddeus Young at the McDonald's All-American game.
Oh yeah,
I remember like this dude was a very underrated player, a guy that I think in today's NBA would have been like
even more impactful,
better. Yeah, with his skill set, but he never reached to those levels of people that he was in that brief company of names with. And you just never want to be the odd man out in a situation like that. And for Mathurin, I'm sure he's probably had a wide variety of different emotions in this series. On one hand, probably feeling like, yeah, this is why y'all need to start me more. And then being like, damn, am I going to get to shoot the ball again because I didn't shoot so well? So I'm sure he's probably, processing and thinking of a lot, but this is the ultimate, like, perfect moment for him to come through and be the hero and have another game like how he did in Game 3. And that will be huge for their momentum, give them a huge boost in both the confidence, especially if Tyrese can't play. They're going to need someone who's going to be able to inject that type of feeling. And there's probably nobody. He's a little bit more quiet now than how he came into the league, but I don't think there's anyone else who probably talks and is ready and wanting to back it up more than Mathurin on that team. Besides Halliburton, of course, you know what I'm saying? But everyone else in the Pacers is pretty quiet. They don't really talk too much. But Mathurin, I mean, he came into the league, John, and stuff like that. So it's like he needs to bring that. I feel like for the Pacers to have any semblance of a chance, they have to fully lean into what has worked so far, but they also have to bring in a different type of aggression because there is a little bit of not a lackadaisicalness, but it's a little bit of a let's take our foot off the gas pedal. But you're not the team that is favored to win, so you can't do that. You're the underdog. You need to lean into that more. You need to keep nipping at their feet. You need to keep being a menace. You need to keep causing irritation and frustration. And you need to lean into that fully, especially when you're at home and you got your fans. The worst thing to ever do is lose an NBA Finals at your home court.
Yes, you can't let that happen. And we harp on the Pacers, a lot of the mistakes they made throughout the game, how poorly they could have played or how poorly they did play, and how much better they could have played. But to that point, despite your starting point guard being MIA for the most part, just ineffective because of injury or lack of performance, whatever you want to call it, they were still only down 2. I mean, not just Tyrese. I forgot to mention you have 23 turnovers that the Thunder for. I mean, the fact that you were still in the game despite all these mistakes on the road in a game that was so pivotal in the finals. Like, you can't count the Pacers out, but it's like you got to know next game. Obviously, we always know the term elimination games are the hardest games. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, for the Thunder, we kind of talked about this before the show, is the fact that like are they gonna have that dog mentality and like okay, take it seriously. We smell blood in the water. Tyrese is hurt. We don't know exactly outside of Pascal who's gonna be that consistent bucket for them going into Game 6 at home for them. Some like are we gonna close this out and come back home with a ring, or could inexperience come into play? Where it's like you underestimate your opponent, and Rick Carlisle goes in his bag and buys the Pacers another game. What you think?
I think either scenario, it speaks to what is the biggest key ingredient. It's your mentality. Mm-hmm. It's the mental warfare that you prepared for to get to this stage, and how do you in that part of this time, mm-hmm. how do you find your balance? How do you find that inner chi? How do you unleash the beast within you? You know what I'm saying? Not to get all philosophical, but this is the most pressing time. This is the most serious time for them because both teams have something to lose in this Game 6. OKC is dealing with people are looking at us as not a legitimate contender. They're still not. They're still, from watching us now on this bigger national scale, they're not coming away from watching us and going, this is the new dynasty of the NBA. This is the new team that everyone else has to fear. Not to slight OKC, but just speaking to what I've heard more than enough people express, and overall, in looking at they've not had that A+ type of performance, right? Mm-hmm. So they've got that type of pressure on them. They've got people still, even if they win, they're still like it's similar to last year with Boston, of like with Tatum, how there still was that doubt, even though it's like, I know real ones know there's enough people that are drowning, that are going to drown that out. And then on the other hand, Indiana, you never want to lose on your home court. You got this far for a reason. You can't go out without going out swinging, and you don't want this to just be a Cinderella moment. You want this to be the start of y'all approaching, climbing, gaining up with the teams that are closer to cracking that seal. So there's a lot at stake for both teams here. And I think for OKC, there's so much more pressure, obviously, but also you can't give a team like the Pacers a Game 7. That is exactly.
That's scary.
Because win or lose, they walk away even more proud and prideful. Don't let it be you winning 7 off of like 3 to 5 points either. That momentum that they're going to have of like, we were only a couple of points away from a finals, they're going to carry that with them the rest of the offseason, the rest of the season. And when all these teams are being impacted by free agency, by the new CBA, the new second apron, and then the draft, you know this team is smart in how they draft and how they look for talent, how they scout. What to say that's not going to be the same team that you end up meeting next year. So you have to you gotta win the fight. So if this becomes a rivalry, you start out 1-0. Not, man, now I gotta go get my lick back. Now we got a whole summer, whole year to go through before we get a real chance to get our redemption. So I think that OKC right now, they have to be saying to themselves, under no circumstances, from as soon as the ball is tipped into the air, under no circumstances do you give them any breathing room at all. This is the game to have that mastery game, that A+ game, that I'm a 68 win team game. This is that game for them. And if they don't have that and they win, then great for them. But unfortunately, the way things play out, people are still going to be like, well, I guess you're cool, man. So, and they don't want that. They've had to deal with people all year, counting them out, not appreciating them, flat out ignoring them within the media. So they need to have that performance that sends a statement to not only the fans, but the rest of the NBA of, we are that new dynasty. Y'all been asking who's going to be that new team to carry the torch, because we've yet to have a back-to-back champion, and we've yet to have even a back-to-back finals appearance in this decade. We're that team. Hello. Hi. We're the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's nice to meet you. So there's a lot riding on them, especially. Indiana, it's more of a circumstantial thing, just given where they are now. And given the fact that they had an opportunity to make this a 3-1 series, as we talked about last time, but they might have blown the opportunity. And it's looking a little rough right now.
You make a great point. I think when it comes to the point of that A+ game, despite we got obviously 40 from Jalen Williams, 31 from Shea, we still haven't seen that A+ game. But hey, they're still up 3-2, despite maybe that minute criticism. You know what I'm saying? But I do agree. I think it will on the road. We always, again, it's the toughest game to win is that final game in the series. So I think it will probably take an A+ game. But at the same time, one thing I don't like when in sports media is the conversation of the fact that, like with the Thunder, 68-win team, the Pacers, they're probably not going to be looked at the same way. But I don't like to discredit the team, for doing what they're supposed to do. In the sense that, like the Thunder, they're a team that, like, I've heard people kind of deflect and like, oh well, they're not really that all-time a great team because they're having a dogfight against a team that we won't view as all-time great team that's most likely, right? But at the same time, I think how you can flip that too is if you have a dominant performance on the road, game 6, shut things down, and have that A+ game to shut things down. You have not just Jay Williams and Shea play great, but I love to see Chet get more involved. Have Caruso play better off the bench because he's been off the bench in the playoffs, but in game 5 only 2 points. You want to see him get more involved off the bench, things like that. So like if they can have that best game at the right time to really close things out, I think to me it's all a lasting image in sports. That lasting image of think about last year. Unfortunately, even though y'all won, the lasting image was we did it. You know what I'm saying? To the point where like nobody wants to talk about my man winning the championship. Even though if he would have lost, they get criticized if he didn't win. But he wins and he still gets criticized because then he don't know how to celebrate in a original fashion, which is was crazy. You know what I'm saying? But not trying to get too much on that point, but still, bro. Like,
yeah, man, you can't win for losing, and there's no winning. There's no winning and losing. So that's just where it's a lot more riding at stake than people realize, because, as I said a couple episodes ago, this is an audition for these two teams to cement themselves as one of those era-defining teams, the way that in the 2000s the Spurs and the Lakers were, or in the 2010s the Cavs and the Warriors were. Like, who is going to take that baton? Who is going to emerge? Because right now, it's any man's game. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can legitimately have a season like the Cavs or the OKC.
Come out of nowhere, yeah.
But does that mean that, oh yeah, we're here to stay? We're here to no, because this era has shown so far that that's not the case. And then now with the new CBA, with the new second apron, you really have to draft well. you really, really, really have to draft well, because otherwise you're cooked if you're trying to rely on free agency. And if you don't get guys under contract, so there's a lot more things that go into it that are going to go into it now than even beforehand. So I think that for OKC, it was great that J-Dub had the game that he had, because that was exactly what he needed. He had a lot of heat on his back about, you're the supposed second option, the second star, but we don't know. We don't know if you really can go. You can really, go step for step with someone like Shea. It feels like there's a massive drop off. But he carried the team. Like, Shea had a very quiet 30-plus point game. Very quiet. J-Dub had a very loud 40-point game. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was from mid-range, three, at the basket. He was scoring from every single level, and he was playing amazing defense on the other end. That also needs to get brought up more, because he was on the all-defensive second team for a reason.
You forget that.
People forget that, but he was a big reason for why OKC's defense is what it is. And, to see a player who is peaking at the right time, that's the type of momentum you need when you're trying to build a dynasty, right? Think about the way that Clay would step up and play.
Game 6 Clay.
When they needed him. It was like a flip of a switch. He's like, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm going to remind y'all why I'm one of the Splash Brothers. I'm going to remind y'all why I'm one of the faces of this franchise. And that call has been answered by J-Dub. Because we already, Shea is okay. Shea ain't got to worry about Nan. Shea is, especially if they win, he's got Finals MVP. And that's going to be so great for his legacy, so great for his career. But the pieces around you, right? Everyone's going to be judged. And right now, J-Dub is answering the call about him being the second option. Now, Chet has got some ways to go.
Been good defensively, though. And that's offensively.
That's the thing. That's the thing I will say. He has been great defensively. And I think that's something that if you're OKC, you take that. But they definitely need to lock him in the gym, like literally put like 3 boulders and lock, Marvin Sapp, close those doors. Close those doors.
Crazy, bro.
We're not leaving. Close those doors. Like, close those doors. Like, don't let this man out of a gym for the whole year. You know what I'm saying?
He's too talented.
Do not. He's too talented. Don't. And also help him with his shot selection, because I really feel like when OKC starts to self-destruct, it comes down to bad shot selection by all of them. But it's worse with him because of his size, because of his play style. The problem just exacerbates even more. So you want to make things less difficult for yourself as a team who's trying to establish itself. And I think that was one thing that Draymond had to really realize when they were building those teams, is like, look, I'm starting to get my numbers up, and I'm starting to show, I can score too, but it's like, but
that ain't what they need from you.
But that ain't what we need from you.
Yeah.
And your shot selection is horrible. You know what I'm saying? And it's a sobering and humbling feeling. In Chet's case, he's actually a very talented shooter. He's got a versatile bag. So it's just more so, it's not a question of talent. It's a question of execution and application. How do you utilize your gifts properly? And I think that, if he goes out and has a big game, that is a huge boost in confidence and a great addition to his momentum as he develops and grows. And that's what OKC also has to be thinking about, is like what this title means for their future, their immediate and the long term.
100%. Now, I kind of would like to pivot here. I would say, kind of going back to Game 5, but also thinking about how things might go for Game 6. We already talked about how Game 5 Pacers didn't play their best basketball, but they still kind of hung in there. And then in the case of the Thunder, they had their two best players play their best basketball of this finals together at the same time. But at the same time, still wasn't an A+ game. And we say it's going to take an A+ game for them to close things out in Game 6. But to that point, if that doesn't happen, do you believe it'll be more so like, okay, just good pace of basketball for us in Game 7? Or in the Thunder side, despite how talented they are being a 68-win team, we kind of mentioned how they have those little kind of cracks in the armor in a sense, the little things that we try to take away from them despite being such a successful team, is their youth. And with that youth can come in experience. And I think one thing that I worry about, if they were to lose, I am picking them to win. If I were to give a reason why they could lose in a Game 6 and close that game in the finals on the road is inexperience. Do you worry that could play a role of you come in too lax in a Game 6, thinking everything's going to go your way because of the fact that the Pacers have probably more things to figure out than you do going into a Game 6. But hey, this is a closeout finals game on the road. This is no joke. What do you think about that?
I definitely think that holds a significant amount of weight because looking at them as a team, right, we have seen highs and lows, right? We've seen in certain games where they have looked, this is just speaking through the whole playoffs, we have seen certain games where they exactly look like the 68-win team that they are, look like the best team on the floor, the best team in the league. And then games where you can match up well for them if you scheme properly, if you have the right personnel, and if you have players that are able to, play both ways. I mean, these are all kind of simple, generic things, but you saw the trouble that the Nuggets gave them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't really see that with Minnesota, but what's to say that these other teams aren't going to study film from that Denver series, especially if y'all lose, and they pound on it even more about, we really have to create a whole contingency plan. But if we create a contingency plan that is strong and able to account for, maybe this guy might go off tonight, maybe that guy, whatever. But you come up with that, right? That puts an unnecessary target on your back. And granted, if they win, which we're thinking very much so, there is going to be a target on their back. That's the territory that comes with being a champion. That's the territory that comes with trying to establish yourself as the team to beat. The Chicago Bulls had to live with that feeling all the time in the 90s, but they answered the call.
Every time.
That's what everybody is kind of waiting on. Can you answer the call? Because we have not, due to lack of experience, we have not seen y'all in enough pressure jam situations. Because if you think about it, right, OKC's had a very interesting journey as a franchise, right? We think about, KD and Westbrook almost made a finals run again for the first time since 2012. And without Harden, they almost made one in 2016. As we know, they lost a 3-1 series lead. Golden State wins that. Then after that, KD goes to the Warriors, wins back-to-back finals, wins back-to-back finals MVPs. Russ is it's the Russ show. Russ gets MVP, breaks the triple-double record in back-to-back years, but they're not doing nothing. It's a fourth through sixth seed basketball where it's like, yeah, we're competitive, we're in the playoffs, but you're not worried about them. You're like, oh, okay,
contender, no.
Yeah, you'll be like, I'll watch their game because I want to watch this. I want to watch Russ, but you weren't looking at the Thunder at all as a contender. But then they tried. That's the thing. Then they tried. They were like, all right, we're not really getting anywhere. So bring in PG, bring in Melo. That doesn't work either. Like, you get slightly better, but you don't get to that level where you're one of the top teams in the West and one of the top teams in the NBA. Like, you're hovering. And then from there on, they just totally reset after they traded. Did Westbrook get traded, or did he sign with the Rockets?
I believe he was traded. Yeah.
So he gets traded because CP3. He got traded for CP3, right?
Yeah, something. Yeah, they swapped basically.
Yeah. So CP3 goes over there, and it's like, oh, now we're resetting over here, and they go through a couple years of a rebuild because Shea came through that same year. So they only go through like a true rebuild for a couple of years. They don't quite crack that echelon. They get closer and closer. They have all this draft capital, so they're drafting their guys. They're watching them, blossom in front of their eyes. But what is missing in that whole experience, because that is a journey, like a true journey of up and down, up and down, up and down. They only had like a year or so where they were like just outright bad. And they had to like start from scratch, build from day one, and give credit to them as an organization, give credit to Sam Presti as a GM. But there is, to quote J. Cole, there's beauty in the struggle. There is sometimes a beauty to being like a really downtrodden team for a couple of years and really getting it, grinding, getting out the mud. And then you make those leaps, you make those bounds. Like Golden State, those first few years with Steph were not a good team. It took them about 3 or 4 years to just get to the playoffs. But then once, they went through that phase. They went through that experience. And then when they nearly beat the Spurs, the same year where Steph had that crazy game at the Garden, that kind of like just made everyone remember, like, y'all remember me at Davidson back in 2008? Yeah, I'm still that guy. I'm still that, and I'm better now. That type of momentum is what propelled them the next year after, when Steph wins his first MVP and they win their first championship. So for OKC, they didn't necessarily have that moment last year in the playoffs. They went out kind of just, They had the benefit of everybody was focused on and Jokic and Luka. Even though the Thunder last year were the number one seed in the West, but the talk was not around them. There was all these other teams that just had more of a presence and more visible stars, because it's a star-driven league at the end of the day, and they were able to, in a way, I don't want to say duck accountability, but the pressure and the heat wasn't on them the same way it was on that 2012 team for not winning. Even though that team was like, them guys was all like, yo, like, we just became legal drinking age last year. Like, what you mean? Like, why didn't we beat a Miami Heat team with a fully grown LeBron, Wade, and Bosh who've been for almost a decade? Like, what is this what we're doing now? But that's a different, like, there's different levels of and magnitudes of pressure. And, when you don't have to worry about that, that plays a role into your preparation. That plays a role into your approach. So I say all that to say, like, being thrust into the spotlight sometimes is the best thing, because it forces you to either sink or swim. And for OKC, this is their time of being thrust in the spotlight, which is also tough because this is also the same year where, like, they really kicked it into another gear, took it to another level. But it's like, I guess the best way to say is they're like a late bloomer. So it's great that they've got this strong foundation, but there are things that experience teaches you. This is just me speaking about life. But there are things, if you catch and read, there's things that life will teach you through experiences, that no matter how many books, no matter how much prep and shadow work you've done, no matter how much time you've built and invested, it ain't nothing like experiences, nothing like being out in the field. So that's the tough part, is that they're going through this state. They're going through like two different stages simultaneously. And that can be a lot for a team that's already, like, again, dealing with people are counting us out. People are taking us seriously. We don't even get aired like that because we're not in a market that
small market team
is going to, attract that type of attention on a national scale. So I think that overall, though, me saying all that, I still believe that OKC can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know what their talent is capable of, but their talent has to fully show itself. That's the only way that it's going to go. If they play anything less than an A+ game, you are giving Indy a sliver of hope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all they need. That's all they need, because they've already won at OKC. They've won in OKC, and they don't care if they win ugly. They don't have the pressure of having to win pretty. They can win ugly. That's been their brand. OKC, though, you're the number one team. You had this dominant offensive season. You had this dominant defensive team. Oh no, you need to win, but you also need to win. You need to win in a masterful way. You need to have the equivalent of a J-Dub game for as many people on your team.
I agree, and I like that point, because we do criticize a 68 win team. This 68 win team probably more than any team that's been at that level, I would say.
Right? Can you think of?
I mean, at this level for sure. But before they even have won, and they're all intents and purposes look like they're about to win. We'd be shocked. But I think to that point, like, if they get it done, and because we give a lot of credit to how we talked previously about Shai's legacy, but I think really what should be appreciated now with Jalen Williams' performance over the last few games, 3 straight 25-point games, the first to do that in the playoffs. Even Kevin Durant hadn't done that, which is in the finals, which is amazing. But I think one thing we got to think about now is, like, obviously it takes more than just one great player to win a championship. I think about the value of them as a duo. I think if they win this championship, especially if they win that dominant fashion, J-Dub continues to have another good game. SGA just plays like SGA. I think you got to consider them as that number one duo going into next season. First, I want to know what you think about that. But then on the flip side, as far as when we think about perception in the finals, how do you think Tyrese Halliburton will be viewed after this NBA Finals? Because he's another guy who's gotten a lot of, like, he's been the highs of, he's a superstar, or at least he's that dude, to, like, man, like, you haven't really shown up consistently like you need to have had to really make this series that has still been competitive. But it's like, man, like, if you play like how you needed to play, you could have tipped that scale even more. What do you think about that?
Well, I think to answer the part about J-Dub and SGA, I think they make it very difficult not to put them in that. I look at, obviously I'm biased with no shame. I gotta throw Tatum and Brown up there, but right, it's a sports, and just the way things work now, especially just given how fast things come and go. We live in a what have you done for me recently? And a year ago, yesterday, we did it. We were hosting the Ray O'Brien Trophy. Life was good. It seemed like, nothing but smooth sailing going forth. It seems like we brought the Celtics glory and the name back. And it looked like that was going to be the case even more. And this is with them coming off of multiple Eastern Conference appearances where it was like, y'all are right there. And they finally did it in 2022, but they couldn't get over they couldn't beat Steph and the Warriors. And then 2024, they did make it happen, but you don't fully solidify y'all that number one. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, like, the only way you can do that is through winning and winning consistently. And they weren't able to do that with this year. So for OKC, they want to put themselves in a position where they're going to be unquestionable, undeniable. And a win for them, and especially given the fact that we don't even know the ceiling of those two players individually and as a duo, it makes it hard not to give them that honor. Like, they've earned, like, when they're doing preseason rankings of, like, top duos in the league, if they go out tomorrow, have that A+ game, win the finals, then they're gonna for sure be that preseason number one ranking. You can't even throw up someone like a Donovan Mitchell and a Darius Garland up there. They're fun to watch in the regular season, but we haven't seen them be able to put it together in the playoffs. As much as I want to throw Tatum and Brown, I probably would say like they're right after. They're not the defending champions anymore in this scenario. So, things very much come down to the timing of it and your impact. And that's why like that A+ game will do so much to, change any perception or just add to the growing reputation of both these guys. So, and there's no way that Shea doesn't win Finals MVP.
No, that's not even a question.
Like it's all set up for him perfectly. So yeah, I think that this is, this answers any question of doubt about can he be a face of the league type of player. And then on the other end, on the other side of the pond, the other team, the Pacers, with Halliburton, it's tough because it's like, you can't ignore the magic and theatrics of game one. That was insane. That was incredible. Since he's been very up and down. Like he's had flashes and moments. He picked his play up. He picked his play up at times. That game 3 was huge. He was the driving force.
You need more of that.
But we need more of that. And honestly, we really need you to have one of those 35, 10, and 15 games, like how you did against the Knicks. You need one of those games because this Thunder team wants it just as bad as y'all. They just also but they have the benefit of more personnel. But y'all have the benefit of being more battle tested. So it's going to be a very interesting battle for game 6. And for Halliburton, it's never, you never want to go out with an injury. And you certainly never want to go out after shooting, 0 for 6 from the field. I know he's the type of player, type of guy that he strikes me as. He's going to do everything possible to come back, play, hopefully have that Willis Reed moment, what I'm saying? Runs out on the floor and everyone's, yeah, we got a chance. Everyone's feeling that way. And then with him as a player, it adds to the lore even more if he goes out there in a losing effort and has his best game, balls out, leaves everything on the court. He can still walk away from this feeling, I proved my point. I made my name known. And y'all gonna respect me. Y'all gonna put some respect on my name. But if he has another performance like how he did, previous game, or even a game 1 type of game statistically, not, I made a game winner, but like, okay, this is just a very meh game.
Yeah.
All that does is add fuel for the talking heads that are trying to find something to stick with the Pacers because, they have no scandals. There's no off-court nothing.
Yeah, in Indiana. You know what I'm saying? No pizzazz.
Basketball and go home. Like, they're not bothering a soul. They're not doing nothing. But for Halliburton, right, he's picked up a little bit of a reputation of being a guy that is going to speak his mind and he's gonna pop back at those who doubted him. So he needs this. He needs to win or lose. He needs to have the game of his life because you got people out here calling him a front runner. They're going, "Oh, you got all this to say when you're having a good game, when y'all up, but where's that energy when you're not or when y'all down? Like keep the same." And it's just the nature of when you invite certain energy that you put out, what's going to come back at you? It's going to have people trying to G-check you, trying to test your jaw, trying to see what you about, what you made of, And look, I can relate because when I was a player, I used to talk a lot of mess. I talk a lot of mess, man. I had to
back it up though.
I had to learn though, right? I had to learn that if I spend more time, and I'm not saying Tyrese does this because he's made it, I didn't. So that just thus shoots anything down. But the greatest lesson that I learned is that there's always going to be someone who's bigger than you, stronger than you, and does not care about their future more than you. Like there's always going to be someone
Got always in there
who's going to be ready to see, okay, what you really about, what you really on, what's really good. And with Tyrese, you know, he's a nice guy. He's a good dude. So it's like there's nothing wrong with having that extra, having that chip on your shoulder of being a guy who had to prove himself coming up in the recruiting circuit, having people doubt at you. You played at a smaller university. You got traded early in your career after you showed that you were, a player worth building a franchise around. Like you have reason. You have a lot of reason to be like, nah, I'm gonna talk my ish. I'm gonna let y'all know what y'all missed out on, and I'm gonna remind y'all and prove it when I'm out on this court. But at the same time, when you do spend time fighting those type of battles, if the war on the court is not in alignment, then all that does is just prove all those people right. And then that adds a whole new topic, a whole new conversation of, was he too focused about shattering whatever perception was placed about and around on him, which was, to me, I don't like that that was the thing that people were looking to nitpick when covering the Pacers. Because again, they had it just felt like they were looking for something. They're like, we got to find something. Ah, yes, there we go. Whoop, X marks the spot. But now that just adds a layer of, oh, here's something new that we haven't even explored, but thank you. You just laid your cards out for us. And I would hate to see that happen for Tyrese Halliburton, because I feel like he has earned the right to have the debate. I don't know whether to put him there fully or not. Like it's 1 minute I'm like, yeah, and then I'm like, I don't know what to do here, but he has earned the right to have that conversation. But if he goes out sad, then there's going to be less talk, because there's less talk about Devin Booker now. Way less talk.
100%.
Way less talk. There's less talk around Jimmy Butler. Everybody was ready to put Jimmy at this stature. I'm like, yo, I love Jimmy. Jimmy's been one of my favorite. That 2011 class is one of my favorite drafts ever. I've seen Jimmy up close, like practice and all that. I love Jimmy as a player, but he was never at the stature that people were going off of just because of his playoff stuff. And that's the potential dangerous territory that Tyrese could find himself in. So he's got to go out there and he's got to have the game of his life for his team's sake and for his own sake. Because I just feel like for him as a young player, you don't want to go into the offseason with all that on your mind. You already dealt with some of it in the Olympics. The fact that he didn't get playing time, and he handled it like, he handled it with grace and class, and I respect so much. Like he was very, he was very much a good teammate at the end of the day. He was still there and ready when called upon. But you already dealt with that going into the year. Don't add more to your plate now, But overall, the Pacers can't, I still say all this to say that the Pacers have so much to be proud of.
Oh, absolutely.
They do. But
it's not over yet.
But the NBA is starting to become like the NFL, where you have teams that look like they're going to make that leap and they go to the Super Bowl and they lose. And then
never see them again.
Never see them again. Like the Bengals, are they ever going to make a Super Bowl run again? We don't know, but it's not
the defense.
Right. Yeah. There's things that you can automatically point to and say that's why.
Right.
And with the Pacers, there are things that you can point to with why, but there are also things that you can point to on why they have what it takes to establish themselves as a powerhouse in the East. You don't go to the Eastern Conference Finals if you aren't a team that can't handle the rigors of who your competition is. But you got to win. Winning is the ultimate cure-all. And the benefit that they have is that they can win ugly. Tyrese can't, but the team can win ugly.
Oh, for sure.
Tyrese can't win ugly.
it makes me glad I asked this question because I think what we always think about is the finals is immortal. Game 6 could be that lasting image where SGA and Jada put up a great game, close things out, and in the series. And I guess say a negative for Tyrese is if he is with this injury, not able to play, not able to perform to quality standard, and it ends bad for him because or on the other end it might be has a Willis Reed moment, even though I felt it's very unlikely. But the reason I'm glad I asked the question because I didn't expect to go this far, but when I think about it, it's like think about next season. If you think about say SGA, J Dub, they're that number one duo. But then also there could be the naysayers. We're like, well, Tatum's out. Jaylen Brown, he's there. So like, what if Tatum and Brown get healthy? They'll be the number one duo again. They already saw them win a championship before you, and they've had more overall success. What about I think the Mavericks? When Kyrie gets back, they have Anthony Davis, and they got the number one overall pick, Cooper Flag. They could be a even better duo when they get all their pieces together because they have a good team. People could bring up wherever KD goes, who knows? KD and Wemby, what's that look like?
I'll say Wemby and D Fox. I mean, because
them too. You know what I'm saying?
Look like a breakout team over there in San Antonio.
Yeah. We already saw how even though they beat the Nuggets, Nikola and Jamal Murray, they're obviously a proven championship team. They just need more help kind of around those two guys, but they're another duo that people can give a lot of respect to. So it's going to be interesting how things kind of go and with how things end this season and going to next season about how people get viewed and are they really going to be valued the same way. And then for Tyrese, it's like he was a dude that was getting top 10 player in NBA conversations. With how he potentially could close out this finals if it's on a sour note, how does that look? And especially with what I worry about with Tyrese, he's not a dude like, for example, we weren't having these superstar conversations in the regular season. These superstar conversations were built in the playoffs. So it's like it could be a point where people forget how good he is because like he could have a good, solid 18-10 regular season, but then what if he balls out in the playoffs again? There's kind of like. It's like deja vu, like dang, like he really could be a superstar. And then it's like, okay, and we're doing this all over again.
Yeah.
Then people can be, I already told you he's not. You saw what happened last year. You know what I'm saying? So it puts, especially Tyrese in a tough spot. And I think for SJ and J Dub, it can put pressure on them in the sense of like, okay, yeah, you may have ended the season as number one duo, but at the end of the day, nobody's repeated. So it's like y'all might be the number one duo right at this very moment, but do we expect that to stick? Do we expect that to stay? No, we got all the other dudes coming back when they get healthy. Or other dudes are going to take y'all spot, especially when how tough the West is. We still got even the veteran guys, Luka LeBron, Steph, Jimmy. We'll see what they do. So I think it's going to be a very interesting point with how the series closes out going into next season, how those conversations can evolve and change over the course going into next season. I think that's going to be very, very fascinating. But it's kind of to round things out. Are we ready to give our prediction? Are we going to stick with our prediction, I should say? Are we taking the Thunder, having that dog mentality? What we said, dog mentality, A+ game performance, close things out in 6. And I'd look at the spread real quick. I believe it was a 6.5 point spread on the road to Indiana. Are we going to switch to a game 7? I've been struggling with it all day, so don't worry.
I've been thinking about it all day because I'm like,
I don't want to switch up.
I don't want to switch up because I already switched. So I'm like, I'm like, dang, am I a hypocrite? Like, I'm not trying to look like.
It's just so much uncertainty, though. You know what I'm saying?
What?
It's so much uncertainty because we know the thing I believe are going to show. I'm not worried about SGA, you know what I'm saying, or J-Dub at this point. But the thing is like, okay, we don't really trust Tyrese right now in part because of how he's played an injury, right? But at the end of the day, like, I'm cool with Pascal. He's going to be fine. He dropped 20 in game 5. I think he's going to show up. Okay, who is going to show up in game 6 at home to really make this game interesting to even have the idea of a game 7 even be a possibility? That's the one I'm hung up on. But I don't distrust Rick Carlisle. If anybody can figure out a formula to make that happen, it's him. Carlisle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
That's that's where it is tough, man. I'll put it like this.
Okay.
I'll put it like this. OKC in 6.
Mm-hmm.
But if the rest of the team, Sands SGA and J Dub, and Caruso, I think he's shown.
Yeah,
he's shown good. He's shown enough this
Excellent.
Season.
Yeah.
So if anyone besides those three names, Wiggins actually has played well these last couple games.
Yeah.
But anybody besides those names does not have an A+ level, which Chet, that means you got to play at an A+. I
want to see it.
Then OKC in 7. Indy will be able to squeeze out another win. At least give the fans a happy memory before the summer. But then when they back in OKC, oh no, OKC got that.
Yeah.
That's only if they don't get an A+ performance from the other players.
Mm-hmm.
Now with Indy, it's not looking good for them.
Mm-mm.
So I think that they have to go with the approach of, look, we got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
But for Tyrese, individually, he has a lot to lose.
Absolutely.
So it's a unique spot where, almost like one guy's being sent to the line of fire, and the other guys are just there watching, seeing, like he's over here. Like Tyrese is like Jon Snow in the Battle of the Bastards. I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, but you know what I'm saying, where he comes out there with his sword, and it's just him dolo for a second. But he's got to go out there and make it happen and do it. He's the ultimate catalyst. He's the ultimate connector. He's the ultimate piece that brings everybody into. He's the ringleader. That's the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
The other guys on the Pacers don't have that pressure on them. Mm-mm. But as a result of not having that pressure on them, it begs to ask, which one of you is ready for that type of pressure? Which one of you is ready for that type? And it's probably going to be Pascal, because he's already been producing. He's been the top scorer this whole time. He won the Eastern Conference playoff player already. But you see what happens when Halliburton doesn't play well. It doesn't have a big influence on the team. You see what happens. They don't win. Pascal can play lights out, and it doesn't get you to that next level. And that's what's tough about Pascal, is that he did such a great job as a number 2 next to Kawhi. When it was his time to be a number 1 that year after in the bubble, it was calling my boy, what was they calling him? Saucy P or something like that. It wasn't
something crazy, something flagrant.
It was because Paul George was Pandemic P, and Pascal had a nickname, but people were just like, he's not quite there yet. He's not the guy like everyone was kind of expecting.
Comes down a little bit on it,
So it's tough because it's like he's been producing, he's been balling out, he's been their most consistent offensive player. But Tyrese has been the catalyst. He has been the ringleader. He's been the driving force, and that's where the pressure is put onto him, and thus it makes it harder. But if he plays amazingly, right now, that does lift everyone else in the process. So ultimately, Tyrese is the key to all of this, but he's now in a tough spot with his injury and with, he is a player with his game. But this is ultimately going to be the game that tests Tyrese Halliburton as a player. All your skill set, all the best parts about your game, you need to let that show. You need to let that be. You need to impose your will. Say, and that was something that SGA said. I think 2 games ago. Yeah, it was 2 games ago. He kept bringing up. We had to remind ourselves, impose our will, and that's the type of mentality that a superstar has. But you gotta believe in it. You got it. And your team has got to feel that. They've got to feel that you are mentally there. Because if not, right, it's going to show, and it's going to happen. it's going to have a residual effect on everyone else that you're playing with. So I think that I say all that to say OKC in 6, but they better have the best damn game of their lives, because if not, all that does is prolonging their potential glory and robbing them of being able to, put an end to any doubt or any critique on their name right now, given the way the finals has gone.
I like that. And now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna stick with my Thunder 6 prediction, but I will say I am rooting for my guy Tyrese have a great game. I just don't want to be in a situation where I know this is a fellow black nerd. You don't want to get in a situation with Tyrese where it's like when the world needed him most, he vanished. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Shout out Avatar Last Airbender. When Indiana needed him most, he vanished. So I'm really hoping, even I believe the Thunder, are going to outmatch the Pacers, and really show why they're that 6-8 win team and close things out in good fashion. But I really hope Tyrese can have I'm not saying he got to have 30 the game he had against the Knicks at one time, but just show a solid effort and make it competitive down to the finish. You know what I'm saying? This has been a competitive series. I want it to end on a note.
Because you don't want everything that they went through.
Yeah, man.
All the crazy comebacks that they made happen. You don't want that to go in vain. Because people's memories are not what they used to be. People don't remember playoff runs. Context is not provided in a lot of arguments. So when you're in a situation where your last memory that you leave people,
the last image,
is not, I went and did this. I went and did that this series. No. Like imagine if D Wade's playoff run in 06 didn't result in the finals. People wouldn't talk about D Wade in 06.
Yeah.
They'd be like, they might go on YouTube one day and be like, oh dang, he had
he's a bucket.
Or imagine if LeBron didn't get the Cavs to the finals in 07. Oh, great game against this team. Great game. You know what I'm saying? But then think about right? Kobe. Kobe in his first MVP year, his first finals without Shaq. You not to flex, not to throw shots, but you remember Game 6. I know you remember Game 6.
Yes.
And Kobe had to eat that and sit with that all summer. And it was every article in the world going, you're not Michael Jordan. You can't even wear your shoes.
Without Shaq, all that criticism.
You need Shaq. We still hate you. We don't, you know what I'm saying? He had to deal with all of this unnecessary vitriol. And credit to Kobe, right? Kobe's a different breed. I don't know if Tyrese is built like that. I don't know.
How many people are in this world?
How many people are built like that? Kobe took all of that anger and he went to the Olympics and it was
got him gold.
From there on, it was like, no. I'm the Black Mamba. Okay. The deadliest snake.
Yes, sir.
In the jungle, that's me. I'm the deadliest. I'm the one that you fear. I'm the heartbreaker. So with Tyrese, you've been breaking these teams' hearts, which has been building up the ammunition against you. But if you give people a reason to put that target on you and to put you down and diminish everything that you were doing, because people, as a Celtics fan, I'm a huge Kobe fan, so I mean it's just on with it comes with the territory. But I defend Kobe against Celtics fans who try to say that, we shut Kobe down. I'm like, no, we
didn't have Trevor or Andrew Bynum. Let's acknowledge that.
We took advantage of the fact that Bynum wasn't there, Ariza wasn't there, and then when it came to the players that you guys had, Powell got treated.
Powell wasn't tough enough. Yeah,
Powell was getting bullied left and right, and Powell was in a predicament similar to where J-Dub and Chet were. Like, are you a number 2 caliber of this number 1 superstar? And if it wasn't for 2010. People would look at Powell's career so different, right? Now you got people be like, oh, well, Powell this, Powell that. I'm like, yo, I remember in real time,
Wasn't giving Powell that kind of love.
People was not showing Powell that type of love. When how Kobe got all the "you're not Michael Jordan and you need to stop trying to be." It was the Lakers gave up all that for this dude.
Yeah, Kwame Brown.
No wonder he was over there in Memphis where nobody was watching him like that, not doing anything like that. It's unnecessary fuel. It's unnecessary hate that gets put on you in that vicinity when you don't go out swinging. You know what I'm saying? So like ultimately, and I'd say that Kobe didn't go out swinging. We had an insane game 6 where we were nuclear,
hitting all cylinders,
hitting all the cylinders. We were at home, like it everything was in alignment. But that series, that result was not because Kobe didn't step up. Kobe didn't play at an MVP caliber. Like I will look. That'll be the rare time where my Celtics fandom will be called and come into question. But I'm not standing for that. I'm not standing for that because I watched that man Kobe take y'all to a number 1 seed without Powell before y'all even made that in the West.
Part of why he won MVP.
I saw him beat a Nuggets team with Melo and AI. I saw him beat a Jazz team with D. Will, AK-47.
You had to read a team for that era.
And I saw him sweep a team and a guy that somehow gets placed above him. And I love him as a player, but I'm not standing for it. He's not better. I'm not going for it. But Tim Duncan and the Spurs, they swept the defending champion Spurs. So for all the talk about 2011 about how Dirk swept you guys as the defending champion, right? If Dirk doesn't win in the finals, nobody brings that.
No one cares.
No one cares.
You got to seal the deal, 100%.
Not to seal the deal. But in Tyrese's case, given that he's not the conventional superstar, where he's expected to be the number 1 scorer, he's expected to have he's expected to take the most shots. He has to just have the best possible game. He has to go out there with the intention of win or lose. I'm gonna have a game 6 in 1979 or 80 game like Magic. He had to step in for Kareem. That's who he needs to be thinking like, because it's like you're not that type of Kobe Jordan player. You and I'm not putting him at the stature or level of Magic. I want to
no. I'm not good. You're saying though.
Very clear.
Mentality thing.
But your mentality, your approach has to be like the one that Magic had in that moment. Or think even later in Magic's career, 87. Because even after he won in 85, there still was whispers of doubt, especially after 86. I'm saying all this like I was there, but I'm going off.
You're right though. That's real ball talk. Yeah.
Having studied the era, having really spent time watching old broadcasts, right? The Celtics have their best year in 86, and the Rockets knocked the Lakers out, and everyone's going, wait a minute.
That Ralph Sampson flip shot.
Yeah. And everyone now is going, wait, is this Lakers team for real? Are they really? Because we saw them have a little bit of a struggle after that finals in 80. Are they that team? Or are they this team that just won in 85 and only lost in 7 to the Celtics in 84? So 87 was huge because not only did they beat the Celtics, but Magic hits the little baby hook. That's the shot around the world. Everyone in Boston is over about to have a comatose heart attack. So Tyrese has to have that moment for himself. Like I hate to say it, but he has to be selfish this game. You have to think about this is about the team. And this is about making sure that y'all next year, are ready and locked and loaded. But you, Tyrese, you don't want to be forgotten. You don't want to be a footnote. You don't want to keep giving people fuel. You don't want to have a season. Because again, we bring up other examples. D-Book, Jimmy. People are not talking about them in that same light anymore. They had the spark, and I don't want to call them, I want to fully quote the J line, but like you had a spark when you started. But I'll bring up the fell from top 10 to not being mentioned at all part. I don't want that to happen for Tyrese Halliburton. I love his game. I love the way he plays, but he is potentially in danger of that. Not because of us, not because of people who really are watching and really able to understand the nuances, but the general consensus, the way that sports is consumed amongst those people who have sadly a lot of influence and a lot of voice and influence over ours, just because of the volume, not the quality, but
not at all. Not at all quality.
That's what he's got, and I don't want to say I'm not trying to say he's brought it on himself, but being that he's been very vocal, because it would have been so different if he had just never even acknowledged it. I truly think I think for him as well. Sometimes in life, and I'm a person who look, do as I say, not as what I not as what I do. Right.
You're right.
It's hard not to want to respond to something like that being said. It's so hard not to. But sometimes you have to pick your battles wisely, right? You look at the way that Duncan won. To speak of Tim Duncan, right? Tim Duncan won so quiet, under the radar, of the sense of like, that man won 5 rings, and it was a quiet storm. It was a quiet dominance. But you notice there's very little that talking heads and different people can pull to try to discredit Tim Duncan, because he didn't give you anything to do.
Nothing.
In Tyrese's case, he's got things that are going to be held against him, right? He's kind of nerdy, goofy. And not in a bad way, but just like that's his personality. Like he's a very he's not someone who's trying to be something that he isn't. And I respect him for that. But there's not a lot of breathing room given and grace extended. And then as a player, he brings that type of energy out there, but he has a little bit of a Houdini type of flip of a like, haha, gotcha. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like he I don't want to say code switches, but like, you know how he goes from different voices and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Report with him. He the other layer of himself, he lets that side show. And that's great. I think as a player, like you should be able to balance that you shouldn't just be this one person all the time with no layers and no
nuance. Yeah.
But when you have the personality of like, yeah, I want the smoke. I'm doing choke signs to the crowd. I'm popping back to reporters in the media. I'm over here responding with overrated, huh? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm responding. I'm giving those other people the time of day. I'm giving them acknowledgement. Now I've given them access. And that's sometimes the hardest thing to walk away from, because that's when pride kicks in. That's when pride becomes like that becomes your compass. But in that case, given like, hey man, you're in this hole now. The only way you're gonna dig yourself out is how you got in there. I need Tyrese Halliburton, win or lose, to go out there with the mentality of I'm going to dominate, impose my will, and show folks that I'm the best pure point guard. Like pure point guard. Pure point. I'm the best pure point in the NBA. I might lose this series. I might lose the finals MVP. But you are going to walk away from this series having known my name and known my game. You got to be like Dolomite. That's how he's got it. Like, yeah, you can, you know, hey, that's how he's got to be.
Yeah.
Because if he is anything less than all of the greatness that he has been achieving, all of these amazing, wonderful plays, people are gonna forget about it. Because are people still talking about playoff Jimmy the way that they were a couple years ago?
Nope. Things change. Life comes at you fast.
Life comes at you fast. You know, damn, homie, in high school you was
homie.
happened to you. You know, like it was all good just a week ago.
Absolutely.
So that's where that was me quoting Ho. Shout out to Bobby too, but
So,
that's just where that's a different type of pressure.
mm-hmm.
What's different with SGA is that he don't respond to the media.
Nothing.
Like he doesn't give them. He's over here thinking about his fit for IG in the caption.
That's it. Yeah, he worked hard on that than talking to the media.
Yeah, so that's just where there's a different approach to things.
Right.
And you would think that a player like SGA would have the personality of a Tyrese.
Nah.
Because he's out there getting buckets. He's out there
Killing,
out there making it look easy. Like if I was able to get buckets like SGA, oh my God. They'd be like, man,
me, boy.
Get this dude, man. Who man's is this?
Come on, man.
You need to chill out. But Tyrese doesn't have the type of game where if you're not producing and balling, people aren't going to hold your feet to the fire and be like, wow, you can't talk like that. You haven't earned that right. And I don't want him to go through that. So I want him this game 6 to say, yo, look, win or lose, I got to go out there and show the world what I'm made of. Leave it all out.
I agree. We kind of making the same point because I agree. I really wanted to play, even though I think it'll be a losing effort. And in a sense, if he isn't go out this way, you kind of got to use this motivation. And I say it like this: like with the NBA, it's going to be a very different, league next year. It's going to be very wide open, especially in the East. If you're Tyrese, even if you lose this finals, as we predict he will, the East is wide open as it probably ever has been in the recent years. In the West is always gonna be a dog. West is a dog. So that's why I say in the West, like, there ain't no guarantee the Thunder gonna go get back to the same point. But if you the Pacers in the East, it's like, okay,
you might
really got to go through that like is battle tested. I mean, the Magic have made the big move for Desmond Bane. We expect them to be good, but are we picking them to be a championship caliber team? I don't know about that yet. Little jumping the gun a little bit. The Pistons gonna be better. But are they there yet? I mean, so does they're down. Cavs, I don't trust them as much as I could throw them. Sorry. Bucks, they're without Damian Lillard. And that's
and they're probably gonna lose Giannis, so they're gonna be
possibly,
They're gonna probably, They're likely going to be rebuilding. So
right.
The East
is better than the Knicks, but you beat them already. So it's like, hey, like if we just got to go through the Knicks, we can do that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? We can do that. That's what I'm saying. So it's like if you're the Pacers, it's like there's no guarantee that you can't get back here again. Like I don't view it as one of those flash in the pan playoff runs. Even if it might not end in the best fashion, because they don't win a championship and Tyrese doesn't show up the way he should. But then at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but Tyrese might get that, even though he's not going to get superstar credit because how he's played, but he might get some superstar criticism because it's like, man, like, he was doing so good before because how much he's going to be talked about.
Yeah,
like for a guy who's not a superstar, at least I guess we're kind of taking him off that pedestal because of how he's played. He's going to get a lot of superstar criticism. It's like, man, like, where was that energy earlier that you played? Like you could have been a champion possibly or more competitive in a final because the series was more competitive or has been more competitive than some people thought it would be. It's like, man, if we got the Tyrese from the Knicks series, how different could that finals have gone? People are going to question those things, and then going into next year is like, are we going to get that level of Tyrese again for the Pacers to go back to the finals and in a weaker Eastern Conference? That's going to be another question. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be a lot of that talk. But then again, the regular season, like we already said, like that superstar conversation wasn't really brought up in the regular season. It's in the playoffs. So it's like it's a very weird dynamic with Tyrese Haliburton. That's why I want to see him go out strong in his playoffs. But like I said, that's the close thing out. Like I said, we're still taking Thunder in 6, like our original prediction, and I'm gonna say, obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Finals MVP, Finals MVP. My man is stacking up all the awards. So that's big time. You know what I'm saying?
I'm happy for him. Fellow 1998 last year, the real ones. Yeah, shout out to 99. They cool too. But 98, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Jalen Hurts started the year with a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
And then Shai, it works perfect. I think for Shai, as a player, this is proof that you don't need to be a crazy athlete.
Mm.
And you don't need to be a crazy 3-point shooter.
3-point shooter, yeah.
Like Shea winning a finals MVP will be big for the sport of basketball because it will remind people that at the essence, if you've got great footwork, great timing, and great touch, especially from mid-range, I don't care what year it is. I don't care what type of defenses are allowed or are not allowed. You can be a significant bucket getter if you have to, you know? And people are so, this era has devalued the art of the mid-range game.
I hate it. Analytics, man. I hate it.
Analytics, man. That it ruined something that was such a key part to the game that was almost like you would have been laughed at in 2004 if you told a coach, I'm not shooting from 15 feet. Get me on the 3-point line. Guess what? You're not getting in the game. You're handing out Gatorades. Could you imagine like middle school era ball? Could you imagine telling your coach, nah, I'm gonna hop out on the corner, hit and shoot some.
Pull it from 30. You know what I'm saying?
Imagine trying to pull some Timo Cruz stunt on a fast break.
Oh no.
So like Shea winning, like he's unintentionally like a poster child for that era of yesteryear. But it's not like he can't shoot from 3. It's not like
it's more of a stylish choice.
Yeah, it's not that he doesn't have athleticism to beat his man off the dribble and get a slam dunk. But that's not what his game is largely predicated from. And he's incredibly effective from the mid-range. So the way that like Steph Curry, him winning in 2015, that had you saw a lot of point guards that came up after. They tried to replicate that. Well, what's to say that a bunch of players don't try to replicate what SGA is doing, which is all the stuff that Kobe, MJ, T-Mac, AI, that from that era we're doing. So as someone who's a fan of that era, that adds a little bit more onto why I want to see a competitive game from Indiana, but I Shea as a player, I want to see those type of players come back. I want to see that part of the game be valued again. And I wanted that to be shown with my Celtics last year because truly at the core, both Tatum and Brown come from that school of players. It was a reason why Tatum was training with Kobe and Jaylen Brown was training with T-Mac. They come from that type of.
Yeah, forgot about that. Yeah,
they only got turned into these like heavy 3-point shooting players recently. But I respect that Shea, even though he's added that to his game, he's still like, my goal is to kill you on this mid-range. My goal is to kill you with this little shimmy,
the rim,
little head fake, with this drop step. With what I'm saying? My goal is to beat you with this footwork. All that requires skill, fundamentals, and timing, more than athleticism, more than crazy speed, anything like that. And I feel like for young players watching that, it's great for them because it gives them hope of like, look, if I get my fundamentals A1, I master the game, because that's really the biggest issue right now is that kids are trying to only specialize in 1, 2, 3 parts of the game. That's why when they go to college, they're not ready, or if they try to jump from college and go pro, they're not ready because they haven't taken the time to add multiple layers to the game. And you can see with a player like Shea, he's had to do that because he didn't have that type of crazy athleticism and bounce to rely on. He didn't have a 3-point cannon. His shot, honestly, if we're being real, his shot was very like funky looking when he first came in the league. It was just like awkward release.
The Clippers, yeah.
A little like he looked a little uncomfortable and
didn't feel natural. Yeah.
But credit to him for working tirelessly and sharpening that into the skill that it is now. That's where a young player watching this series can come away after really, and if they go do their homework and they go look at the progression and evolution of how Shea came into the NBA and where he's at now, he is somebody that you can look at and see yourself in. Same with Steph.
For sure.
I think that's what makes it different than when LeBron was dominating, because it was like, well,
he's so one of one. Like,
LeBron, we are never going to see
250-pound dudes
as strong, as fast, jump that high, that's as coordinated.
Yes.
And even still, like, you know, I talked about this today with a friend of, like, one of my best friends who's a Lakers fan. He was like, you know, LeBron is going to win off of those physical intangibles and playing downhill, right? That's not the type of game that SGA has. With Steph, it was different because the three-point shooting, no one had done it at that level. So there was that, like, whoa, only I can do this, right?
Yeah.
But as a result of teams seeing the success of the Warriors, it made them forget that this one guy here is one-on-one.
Yeah, one-on-one skill set,
There's a reason why Houston never made it to a final. They saw
threes.
They tried, and they thought, oh, well, we can do that. We can make it happen. No, y'all can't. No, you won't. So, yeah, I say all that to say, like, Shea winning will do so much for the sport, and it will rebalance things that have been greatly needed to be balanced.
And to your point, kind of going or point about with Shea, his style of play. What I love most about his style of play, you know, as far as like him not relying on that 3-point shot, and you kind of, I feel like you can kind of agree with this point because of being a Tatum fan. What I love is he challenges the defense. He doesn't let the defense challenge him, but by that I mean, like, he attacks them with his style of play when it comes to that mid-range game. So sometimes with Tatum, guys like that, and now he's not the only guy who's kind of bring up that example, is sometimes I feel like he settles for that shot. You know what I'm saying? Versus like you're not attacking a defense and dictating like this is the shot you want to get. Yeah, that's just a shot that you feel like you just have to take. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. That's all it is.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
Because
both players are unstoppable.
Kobe talked about, like, a lot of basketball.
Yep.
Accidental basketball.
Yep.
And I put that under the same umbrella because, as you mentioned, right, it's very different when you are dictating the shots that you're taking versus you're taking what the defense gives you. That's just in life. Like, in life, when you have an abundance of options versus when you're operating from scarcity, it's two very different things. And as a Tatum fan, it's frustrating as hell sometimes because I'm like, dude, like, you're 6'10", like,
play your game. Yeah.
All you gotta do is abuse the smaller defenders. Yes. And if you got a bigger defender on you, beat them with your athleticism. You're not a crazy athlete, and I do think that's one thing that if you could add Jaylen Brown's athleticism to Jason Tatum, he'd be the best player in the league. Like, there's no
not even fair at that point, though.
That's the only. But that's part of the reason why he has to settle for as many jumpers. But he doesn't settle. He doesn't put himself enough in the position to take the right type of jumpers because he could take the right type of jumpers if he's not just taking what the defense can give him and he's attacking the defense. But SGA knows his limitations, but he knows his strengths as well. And that's the key, is knowing you have to be in total intuitiveness and awareness of both. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? What is going to cause a defense to be able to leap? What is going to cause a defense to be able to capitalize? And then on your end, what are the weak parts that a defense is not going to be prepared for? Where are you going to be able to go and kill and feast? And that's just where I know Tatum has it in him. So I'm not worried, and I'm hoping that while he's going through his recovery, he's taking note of, like, I have to change some things in my game. And I hope he's watching. I mean, he's definitely watching this finals. But I hope he's watching, especially Shea, because they both were huge Kobe fans growing up.
For sure.
And this is the manifestation, the continued manifestation of Kobe's legacy as a player, like within players like Shea. I'm not calling Shea Kobe.
No, I get what you're saying though. 100%.
Play style,
the lineage in a sense, yeah.
So I hope with Tatum being as big of a Kobe fan as he is, and people give him a lot of flack for that, which I'll say this, and I'll just address it. The texting him, I mean, I'm not mad at it because I would have done something like that too. I can't lie. If I had Kobe's number, I don't.
That's the thing, bro. Like you gotta put yourself in his shoes. I didn't like the flag he got for that. Like, bro, imagine having a dude you look up to's number. You know what I'm saying?
Like I'm a sentimental person like that, so I probably would have been like, I ain't gonna let you down, Unc. Like I would have did.
I wouldn't have posted it. That's the
that's the thing.
Do it for yourself. You ain't gotta tell everybody how you feel.
Right.
But this generation, you got to tell everything.
Yeah, that was the only thing where I was like, okay, like that. I'm not mad at it because again, it speaks to his passion. It speaks to how badly he wants it. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that with players like Tatum and Shea being influenced by Kobe, right? Yeah. Kobe had that desire. You felt in every moment, I'm giving my all. Like even in watching in watching Game 6 in live time and watching it in retrospectively, Kobe was fighting out there. He was the only one. Like Powell was checked out. Radmanovich was like, "Hey, I'm out here, and no one expected me to be here." Hey, but Kobe was there fighting. That's why I can't ever let somebody try to distort reality and paint a narrative that wasn't true. Like, sure, someone can say, "Oh well, Kobe checked out on his team in 2007. Okay, but the stakes they weren't in the finals. I've never.
It was the first round,
NBA final situation. Right. And he had reached this boiling point of frustration of like, dude, I'm supposed to win with Brian Cook, Chris Mim, Kwame Smush.
Right.
I'm supposed to win with that out west?
Yeah.
Give me a break, right? He reached his breaking point, but I never saw in a finals game. Kobe quit. I never saw him not fight.
The championship on the line. That's what he plays for. That's what he's about. Yeah. That's what he plays for.
That's where like that passion that's been missing from I would say sports in general, but definitely
basketball for sure.
It's way too cool for school.
100%.
I'm not really. I mean, it's cool. Yeah. Like, no, man. I'm sorry. You have the ability to do something that so many of us would kill to do. How do you look at it so regular? Because the players, not all of them are. As much as we call out the media for approaching things in a way that's not authentic to where they are and in juxtaposition with these athletes, but these players also can be held accountable too. Of like, this is you worked for this. Treat it like that. This is something.
It's everything you work for.
Nothing in life that is worth having comes easy. So remind yourself of that. You put in a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears. And if anything, you're disrespecting everyone who has helped you along the way to get you to this point by taking such a lackadaisical approach to it. By being like, it's whatever, as long as I get the best fit on IG, like, no. Like, the reason why no one gets on Shea about like, oh man, what caption is he gonna post? Because he goes out and gets the job done. He goes out and gives his 100%. You don't leave watching a game of his feeling like he didn't give his all because of who he was influenced by, what his foundation was molded in. So that's the type of energy that we need back in the NBA. It's missing. It's why older fans have been feeling disconnected from it. And it's why these young kids today have this distorted view. Like, no, like there's been chaos and order. So there needs to be order. There needs to be something that is going to change the trajectory and change the ship. And I don't want to get on this because I know we got to end this soon. Yeah. But I sometimes wonder what the finals would have been like in 2020 had it not been for COVID. Like who would have been there?
Interesting.
To kick off the 2020s, because I feel like symbolically, the finals kicking off the way that it did as anticlimactically is why everything after is a reflection of that. That's a super hot take.
Interesting.
But I think about in reverse of like with 2000, right? 2000 saw the redemption and resurgence of the Lakers. One of the most storied franchises in not just the NBA but sports. The full arrival of one of, if not the most exciting duo of their time, all time in Kobe and Shaq. And it injected a new energy into the league that people were wondering, and I brought this up on our last episode. Is the NBA going to be the same without Michael Jordan? Without that competitive dominance? So the 2020s, like, to take it to a whole nother level to where we're at modern day, right? To me, the 2020s is reflective of the times of it's whatever. It's a game. Yeah. It's cool type shit. Yeah. It's like that, because, and granted, they couldn't do anything about a global pandemic. And
yeah, of course. Why wouldn't today? Yeah.
They had no control of that, but it ultimately had more of an effect than people realize. Because even the 2021 finals, everyone wasn't fully back out there.
Right.
We didn't really get like a normal, quote unquote, normal finals until 2022.
Yeah, I say 2022 when it got back to the normal.
So this has been a weird decade. And with weirdness, sometimes, it's like as a kid, you have your era where you're like, God, like if someone shows me a picture from that era, I'm gonna throw up.
You're right.
You have that glow up. You need to have that. All right, hey, look, glasses off. I'm not gonna talk like this. All right, hello, how's it going? You need to have that. You need to go like the nicest way to say is we've been in Steve mode. It's time to turn stuff on because I miss basketball that mattered. I miss basketball that had me on the edge of my seat. I miss basketball where my intensity as a person was manifested in what I was watching on my TV screen. I should not be feeling more stressed. And even in games where I'm like, I don't even like any of these teams or having.
I got no betting interest. Yeah.
Why do I feel more invested in like, oh my God, man, I'm going to get cut. I got to go play in. Pack your bags. China's calling. Like, why do I feel more stressed than y'all?
Yeah.
Y'all have more to lose than me.
100%.
So I want that type of energy to come back. I'm not saying that Tyrese Halliburton doesn't have that to his, but Shea, especially because of that Kobe relationship, and you see it manifest in how he moves and plays. So I think that it's bigger than just Shea. It's bigger than just OKC. It's about the sport of basketball and the NBA. There needs to be a culture and energy shift in so many ways, but number one, the competitive intensity. That has been something I should not be watching old games to go back to feel that feeling. I should be able to still feel that feeling now. Just like when people say, oh, there's great music out there. You just got to look for it. No, we had a whole era where all the best of the best music was getting put out there.
Right.
If y'all want to water this, y'all want to water shit down, I ain't standing for that. I ain't going for that. I remember a time where what was presented and what was put on the highest platform was not the watered down. It was, this is here for a reason. But we're in such a weird time now where this is gonna sound like a hater, but Jamie Foxx and Akai Sanat are in the same room. When is that happening?
Yeah.
When is that happening?
Fame is different out of it, yeah.
Don't diss Akai and his success, but the work and the grind that Jamie Foxx had to put in to get to the credibility. Right? Celebrities, you were earned. You earned your celebrity status. Nowadays, anybody with a podcast, with a microphone, and a couple of followers can just say the right things, push it to the right people, bada bing, boom, you're a star. And I feel like that's so emblematic of the era that we're in. We're not seeing that development. We're not seeing that polishedness, and we're not seeing the well-roundedness. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
You good? I'll let you rock. I'll let you rock.
Get off my soapbox.
You got this. Nah.
But damn it, I need to see.
It comes some passion, bro. I love it. You good?
I need to see and feel the passion, yo. I'm not a mild person. I'm not a person like I'm chill, but sports is what brings out that it brings that intensity. And that's what we think about the legacy of Jordan. We think about the legacy of Kobe. That was what they epitomized.
Mm-hmm.
We need to bring that back. I'm sorry. I'm not like this whole, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just the job. It's just the game. No. Because if you don't want it, then let me have it. I'll go out there and get cooked. But you know what? I'll be able to say I played in the NBA. I'm diving for every loose ball. I'm jumping.
Going hard. Yeah.
Like I'm going hard. If I was in y'all shoes. So don't disrespect the people who love the game, who care about the game.
Mm-hmm.
Give that passion, give that same energy. Show people why you fell in love with the game as a child. Because the issue that I really have today, and we'll do this for this is a topic for another video.
Yeah,
a lot of these dudes today don't love basketball.
Oh, we can talk about that. Well,
I don't rock with that.
You talk about
I don't rock with that one bit. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's not knowing the history or not appreciating different aspects of the game, or just the general treating it like it's an internship, like it's just whatever. Like, no, man, this is something that only 0.001% of the population achieves.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that so many kids, especially so many young Black kids, are out here dreaming about. Mm-hmm. Damn near getting killed for.
Yeah.
And we know right now the NBA has been doing all they can. I hate to put it like this, but they're doing as much as possible to make sure that the Allen Iversons of the world do not get a chance to come.
Yeah.
So that passion that was found from those having to grind and work hard, whether they came from, the hood or they came from a working class environment, it's all being pushed away for kids who coming from private school, fancy schmancy trainer, all these different things. And I'm not knocking that necessarily, but the finished product is like, we're getting a bunch of robots out here. We're getting a bunch of, monotonous players who all have the same play style. That's not the basketball that I love. That's not the basketball that I want to support. I still love the game because I will always love the game. Always. That ain't never change. But sometimes it's like a friend that you used to roll with all the time, but y'all realizing our lives are in two different directions. I can't hang with you the same way I did when we were 17, 18.
Right.
And I don't want to feel that way towards the NBA. I don't want my future children to feel that way towards the NBA, because all this is it creates a ripple effect. And we had it good, man. We had it great.
Less. Yeah, man.
We got to inherit
great basketball childhood.
We got to inherit an era where like all the stars were like they blossomed before our eyes. And I really feel bad for kids today because the game it doesn't have that same energy. So I say all this to say that the only way to change is it has to come from someone, taking that initiative, or a team. It just comes from a moment that leaves a lasting impression. And that's what OKC is after. That's why them having that A+ game will mean everything. And if they, because if they go out there and they dominate, they end the series and like, this is why we won 68 games. People are going to be going and watching and studying them. The keys and ingredients to the success. And people with success, it leaves clues. And it causes for a lot of imitation. And they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
Absolutely.
So the only way that the game is going to be able to restore the feeling of the game is going to be able to be restored is if that passion and that commitment to excellence is shown and felt from tip off to the end of the game. That's the only way.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can never question that we don't give our all or we don't love the game. Because if you can't tell, we're recording this podcast talking basketball at past 3 a.m. So with that, we go close out the show. My man, give him a little bit about yourself and tell them where they can find you, my brother.
Sure, for sure. When I'm not over here ranting and raving like the old man.
I love it though. I love it.
Talking to the clouds. Hey, I appreciate it. I'm just the young 90s. I'm just the young 90s baby who remembers a better time. And I want us to get back there. I want us to get back there. I want to see the evolution of the game. I think there's so much great young talent out there. I want them to get that proper respect. I want them to be able to be put into those conversations. But right now, everyone is punching out their weight class. So there needs to be order. There needs to be a moment that brings things back full circle. So I just feel like that's all I can share as a person who grew up watching the sport, invested in it, and being in love with it. And I try to admit that in anything I do. So if you want to feel and experience more, if you also are this crazy and obsessive and passionate like me, then follow your boy on Instagram at Quan_solo and Chilling with Dylan 1229. A lot of content that is coming out on there. That's also the name of my YouTube channel, Chilling with Dylan, sports, music, and life takes. As you see, I fuse all three into them all at once. So if you want to feel that passion, you want to feel that fire, well, hey, it's always hot over here, baby. It is literally hot in my living room right now, but it's even hot over there. So, make sure to like, share, subscribe, support, but make sure, most importantly, to show love to my brother, Phil Wilson over here, who's done an excellent A1 job as hosting and making sure that Wilson Way Sports Talk, that's the way, that's the move, only going up.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. And you might just give my first viral rant for a video. So I appreciate that too. You know what I'm saying? Hey, help me my views up. Brother trying to build things up, you know what I
mean? Hey, me and the OG from Player's Choice. Yeah, me and him, they gonna get us on a pod one of these days.
Oh Lord. But man, with that said,
it's the young version of the old version right here.
hell yeah. But man, with that said, this is your host, Philip Wilson, host of Wilson Way Sports Talk, man. We had a great time recording this episode. Obviously, you can find me not just Wilson Way Sports Talk, my YouTube channel. You can find me on Wilson Way Sports Network, my blog site, Wilson Way Sports newsletter, on LinkedIn. Anyway, you want to find me, I'm in the book. But with that said, to close things out, they always say when it comes to this sports talk media conversation, you know what I'm saying? Everybody talks, but not everybody has something to say. And with that, we will catch y'all next time.
Yes, sir. Stay tuned.